We're looking at a section that deals with putting Kavanah, putting what we're calling intention into everything you do, so that all of the things that I learn, all the things that I do, are elevated through the different levels of worlds that we have been learning about, and the various techniques of where your emotions that you attach to, say, eating matzah or giving tzedakah, where your emotions come from. And by understanding where the emotions come from, I understand the level I can elevate that mitzvah or that Torah learning to. So, beautiful section. And today we're going to dive in again with a concept called lishmo or shelo lishmo. And let's define that before we begin. Lishmo is when you do something for the sake of the Ein Sof, of the infinite. So this is no longer, as we learned, about me doing things because I'd like for lots of light to be created in heaven that I'll enjoy after 120 years. Okay, I get that. I'm sure that's amazing, and we'll all be there one day enjoying that. But really, I'm going to turn this around, and everything I do is not for my own sake, even in that subtle way of saying, oh, I'm going to enjoy this light. I've created this amazing energy in the Garden of Eden. But rather, I'm going to do it for the sake of the Ein Sof, for the sake of the infinite. And that I just have amazing love and I have amazing respect and awe for the infinite. I want to be close to the infinite. I want to give the infinite nachas, joy. And those emotions, when I infuse them in a mitzvah or in this very Torah learning, now that mitzvah and Torah is elevated through the levels of worlds, and it's a very complex chapter. So if you're just joining today, we went through the 4 different worlds and how they correspond to levels and angels that go around them and the levels of the soul. So I'm not going to go deep on that. If you want to review, go back 4 or 5 classes. But I hope to end this chapter today so that we'll move on to the final chapter in this section. So let's dig in. We're on page 571 at the top. This is the Tanya by Shneur Zalman of Liadi. And let's just start and see where we go.
What chapter is it?
We are in chapter 39. Chapter 39, page 571. Let's do the second block. Ve'eno osek lishmo mamash.
He does not really do it for its own sake, lishma.
What we're discussing here is the different ways that I can actually slip up in doing this. Because we've learned about all the ways I can elevate Torah mitzvahs, and in fact, as Shabbat and as Pesach comes in, we know that there's even a pillar that extends from one of these spiritual worlds to the next. And if I'm only using my natural emotions, I can use that pillar, because the worlds are elevated spiritually, to bring my Torah mitzvahs up, to elevate, to unify with the godliness in a higher world, in the world of Bria, etc. Let me mute a few people as we're going around. Good. However, what if I do it really basically just for my own ego again? What if I'm doing all this spiritual stuff, all this learning, all this work, but in the end, it just became another ego adventure. It just became another way to puff myself up, right? I'm doing it not to connect myself to God. I'm doing it because it's going to make me look good to other people, or even in this case where I'm just doing it on automatic. There's no mindfulness. You know, I grew up doing this. I've been coming to temple for 30 years, and I sit down, I say the Shema, and so I sit down today and I do it, but not really with a devotion that's connecting me to the Ein Sof, to the infinite. And what happens? There, the problem is the Torah mitzvahs don't get elevated in the way we've been describing. They simply stay down in what's called the chambers of the spiritual worlds, which is not the godliness of the spiritual worlds. They don't unify with the soul of these worlds, which is the Ein Sof. They stay on the outside, so to speak. Ki lishma mamash efshar belo hitorut dechilu rechimu hativit al kol panim.
For it is important to serve God truly lishmach, without arousing one's natural fear and love, at least.
So this is actually what Kavanah means in Kabbalah. This is what Kavanah means in Kabbalah. I know we use the word in a lot of ways, and we use it for general spiritual vision or my intention or my aim. In Kabbalah, what Kavanah means is I'm taking my feelings about God and about spirituality, and I'm focusing them on a particular action that I'm doing to elevate it so that God will enjoy it, not so I'll get light and enjoy it. That's what Kavanah means. So everything we're going to learn, and that we have learned about meditating to create feelings of love for the Ein Sof, feelings of awe for the Ein Sof, those feelings on their own, they might feel great. And we love having deep feelings. I love feeling spiritual. I love knowing I'm a deep person. But guess what? If I'm just having the feelings on their own, as we said, I don't have that starting point. I haven't plugged everything in with some Jewish practice, whether it's drinking 4 cups of wine, or having your kids say the 4 questions on Pesach, or sitting down and learning from a text as we're doing. That plugs it in. Now, those feelings can become kavanah. Feelings can become kavanah. And we'll learn in future chapters distinct ways of elevating both the love side and the awe side in terms of meditations we can use. But we want to understand this concept that for just my feelings to become kavanah, I need to attach them to some practice that I'm doing, some physical practice that brings it into the real world, my life, my body, and my feelings in my world. And then my feelings become what's called kavanah, and they begin to elevate as we're describing, creating tremendous light and connecting me to the Ein Sof. So it's really not possible if I'm just doing something on automatic, and I don't have any of that kavanah, any of that mindfulness, connecting my emotions to that act. Now it's just not going to go anywhere. I have to at least have my natural fear, my natural love, the love that every one of us has. If you just scratch the surface, you say, what do you care about? What would you give your life up for? I know what I'm about. I'm Jewish, and I want to be connected to God. I want to do Jewish things. I want to come to temple. I want to pray. I want to learn. And you scratch the surface, and that love and awe is there. You have to at least trigger that so that it can attach to what I'm doing, and that will begin the process. And that will be lishmo. It'll be for the sake of the Ein Sof. Any questions about that? Yeah, we got one, Noreen.
So in the Torah, when it says to rejoice on Sukkot, for example, when we're commanded to rejoice, that's what they're aiming at, yes or no?
Yes, and that's of course the love side, right? When you rejoice, it's a flow of chesed. Yes, so you can actually use that rejoicing on Sukkot as a mitzvah to elevate, and I should do it with a lot of love. But guess what? Say I just got bad news for my business right before Sukkot, and I'd really like to forget about Sukkot and go and take care and make some sales or make some purchases and take care of it, and I'm stressed and I can't celebrate. I also want to have a sense of respect that this is Sukkot. Guess what? It can wait till I'm done eating with my family in the sukkah or shaking the lulav and etrog, whatever it is, with joy. And I'm going to also use a sense of respect and awe that's going to also elevate that mitzvah. So even when we're talking about rejoicing on Sukkot, like the happiest mitzvah perhaps of the year, you want both wings of this bird, the love and the awe, as we described, because if it's just the love, it's not necessarily going to get me through that kind of situation. It's not going to say, okay, world can wait. Now's the time for family and God and Temple Israel and my soul. And I'm going to elevate this mitzvah properly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you don't just enjoy just because you're enjoying yourself. That's not good. It's not
Correct.
good.
Yeah. If I look, you could do it. Maybe I'm a person that just likes celebrating. I like meals. I like eating. I like being together with people. And for me, Pesach, the Seder, is just about purely, it's a social thing, no different from a party. Now, if in my mind there's no sense that this is not just a night out, sitting with friends and family. This is really being together for the sake of creating oneness that is connected to God. Now, that's not what we're talking about, right? Now we're not actually using kabbalistic kavanah as the Alter Rebbe is describing. Make sense? להוציאן מהסתר הלב אל הגילוי במוח ותעלומות ליבו על כל פנים. Sharon, I think you're up if you can. So by bringing, and you want to unmute. Sharon, I think you're still muted. There you go.
I'm sorry, I was deep into thought about what you were thinking about. We're on page 571.
Yeah, 571 by bringing.
For it is impossible, by bringing them out from the concealment of the heart into revelation, at least in the mind and the latency of the heart.
So there's levels of having an emotion. And we get that every time I want to do something Jewish, I'm not going to be able to be jumping up and down and dancing or be trembling in fear. That's not who we are. We're busy people, we're modern people, there's things going on, and sometimes I make a commitment and I'm going to do that. Right? I said that I would clean the house for Passover, right? Which can be stressful. And suddenly, the office is calling and this is calling and the school needs something. But you know what? Just boom, do it. Maybe I'm not dancing with joy as I'm scrubbing that sixth drawer of the fridge. But what have I done? I've taken an emotion that I feel by remembering, at least that's how I feel. I brought it into the mind, and what's the word he described? Out from the concealment of the mind, right? If you meet an old friend that you haven't seen in 20 years, or 30 years, or 40 years, you haven't thought about them maybe in a decade. Maybe they hadn't crossed your mind. But the moment you come across them, wherever it is, suddenly, hi, Matthew, how you doing? Oh my gosh, how long has it been? You look exactly the same, right? What have you been up to? And someone looking from the outside sees all this joy, all this emotion. Was that not in my mind before the moment I met them? It was in my mind, but it was concealed in my mind. All that love I had for my old friend was always there. It was just concealed, and meeting them brought it out. So the love we have for connecting with the Ein Sof, just by being Jewish, every one of us, that's already in our mind, but it's in the concealment. So we have to at least bring it out. So now I'm aware, you know what? My father would give his life up to not be separated from God. My grandfather would. My family has given their life up in the past to not be separated from God. This is who we are. Just remember it. And now it will at least be not in the latency of the heart, but somewhat revealed. I remember it emotionally. And as the Alter Rebbe said, that's the minimum. That's enough to start those mitzvahs elevating and flying up with that love and awe to unite with the 10 sfirot, the godliness of whichever world I'm working in. Is that a question?
Yes. Okay, so it's this second clause in this sentence. So by bringing them out from the concealment of the heart into blank, the latency of the heart. What's the latency of the heart? The concealment is when you're not thinking of it at all, but it's there. And the latency.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was describing latency as not there, but in fact, that's where you're bringing it into. So I apologize. I jumped the gun on that.
Okay,
right?
so is latency different than fullness? Is there a fullness that comes after latency?
Yes. So I have an emotion that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Which is, like I said, if I'm this is the sixth drawer that I'm cleaning of the fridge, and I'm not excited about cleaning it, but there's at least a latency in my heart, right?
Sure.
There's an awareness in my heart, if not a full feeling, that I give my life up, this is what I love doing, and it's letting me do it. So that's enough. The latency of the heart, talamot libo, actually, that's the level of emotional integration we're working with here, where it's not a flowing heart. I'm not dancing with my kids at a wedding, bursting with joy. I'm just reminding my heart that it feels this way in a latent way.
It's not full blown.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good point. Thanks. כי כמו שאין אדם עושה דבר בשביל חברו, למעלות רצונו אלא אם כן אוהבו או ירא ממנו.
For just as one does not do something for his fellow to carry out his friend's will unless he loves him or fears him.
So it really is like a relationship with a person. That in the end, when I do something for a friend, I have a connection to them, I have a feeling for them, and that's what motivates me to do that thing. We all know that's a natural human thing. Or if a police officer pulls up behind me and flashes the light, I pull over because I have a certain respect. We can call it fear, we can call it respect, that someone that can enforce the law, when they say stop, you stop. If they say, do you know why I pulled you over? I say, I'm so sorry, I must have been 5 miles an hour over, or whatever it was. And the reason I'm following them, we all relate, is because we have respect or awe for them, for whatever it is. These are the normal human motivating factors. Now here we're using them to actually propel everything we do upwards, to propel and create light, so that we use them as connecting points with the Ein Sof. But in the end, it's the same dynamic. If I want to make sure my Torah and mitzvahs begin their elevation, I want to infuse the physical act with, as we said, with a soul that consists of my own love and awe, just like I would for a friend or anyone. כך אי אפשר לעשות לשמו יתברך באמת למעלות רצונו לבד. So too,
is it impossible to act truly for God's sake, solely in order to carry out his will?
unless בלי זיכרון והתעוררות אהבתו ויראתו כלל במוחו ומחשבתו ותעלומות ליבו על כל פנים. Yeah, go ahead, Doreen, if you'll unmute for me.
Okay. Unless he remembers and arouses his love and fear of God to some degree, in his mind, thought, and latent level of his heart at least, if he cannot arouse these emotions openly in his heart.
So that is the minimum. If you don't want your Torah and mitzvahs, as we heard last week in the story of the Baal Shem Tov, when the Baal Shem Tov came to the founder of Hasidus, this big mystic, he came to a synagogue and he wanted to go in, but he said to his friend, I can't go into this synagogue. I can't go in. His friend said, why can't you go in? We want to learn, we want to pray. The Baal Shem Tov said, I can't go in because the place is just so packed with prayer and Torah that there's no room for me. There's no room for me to enter. Very strange. You'd think a holy person would want to be in a place with Torah and prayers. But what did he mean? Just this. The Torah and prayers weren't being elevated. They weren't being done for God's sake. They were being done for my own sake. I'm in there, I'm praying because it feels good or whatever reason. I'm learning because I enjoy learning. I want to be smarter. I want people to have more respect for me. And all the Torah and the prayers in that room were staying on the outside in the worlds, rather than going up and uniting with the 10 Sefirot, with godliness, with the soul of those worlds. So the Baal Shem Tov was saying, they're not doing exactly what the Alter Rebbe is teaching us here. They're not infusing all their learning and all their prayers with these emotions of love and awe, so they elevate, and now they're up with godliness. They're not here. We're not packing the room we're in with these prayers. We're making sure they get elevated, and they go up and they join with the Ein Sof. So you can't do that unless you have at least the minimum. I've kind of scratched the surface. I've revealed, at least latently in my heart and not hidden in my mind, that I love God, I have respect for the Ein Sof, and that is enough to create these wings we're describing for the Torah mitzvahs to elevate. Furthermore, v'gam ahava levada eina nikret b'shem avodah bli yira tata'a lefachot shehi misoteret b'lev kol Yisrael k'mo sheitba'er lakaman.
Furthermore, the arousal of love alone, without the arousal of at least the lower level fear of God, hidden in every Jewish heart, is not called service, as will be explained later.
And this is actually this is a key one, and I think it's a tricky one for Western people, European people, American people. Why? Because we have a dominant religion where we're living in North America that says God is love. God is love. I hear that a lot from amazing people very, very God-centered, heart-centered people, brilliant people. God is love, and it's around us. And it's in songs too, love is all you need. And we may lose track of what it is that awe brings to the equation as a seeker, that if you're just dealing with love, if you're just connecting with God from a sense of love, and I'm just expressing love for God and for things at Temple Israel and for my family, that's like my bird that's only using one of its wings. If you can imagine how high it will soar with just one wing, that's very tricky. And the reason is that love is always going to have a little bit of me in it. Love is always going to have a little bit of me in it. When I love something, there's always that center, that me, that is aware that I love this instead of that. I love this and it makes me feel happy. I love this and it fulfills me. So as beautiful as love is the first flow that comes into the cosmos. It's the first flow that came out of the Ein Sof to create the world. It's definitely the priority. You want to lean on the side of chesed and always make sure that's the main flow coming out, the main flow that I'm receiving. But I should be aware that when I do that, there's always a me there. And that me, I can't elevate. That me is always going to be separate. Because holiness means there isn't a me. Holiness means there's just one. There's just one being. There's just the Ein Sof. And as long as there's a me that says, hello, I'm Michael, I'm Cantor Smolash, and I love this, now I've created something that can't be holiness, no matter how much love I express. But what does fear, what does awe or respect bring to the equation? Now I have my second wing. It's exactly the opposite. And in fact, it's a theme of Pesach that we're approaching. The whole theme of Pesach is freedom by nullifying my ego. And flour represents the ego, and matzah represents a flat person that's not puffed up like bread, that isn't looking like it's bigger than it is. When I add fear to the equation, or respect, now I'm getting myself out of the way. Because when you respect something, the effect is self-nullification, what we call bitul. Bitul. So I'm surrendering myself to whatever it is that I'm doing, learning today, or something coming up at Pesach, or being at our Zoom services on Sunday morning. And I love doing it, but I also have awe and respect that I want to be careful, do it as fully as I can, and not let something interfere or get in the way. And that sense of fear, that undoes or counteracts the self-centeredness that always creeps in on the love side. And now I can really elevate Torah mitzvahs the way Kabbalah describes. Does that make sense? Any thought? Yeah, Rick?
Yeah, I don't like the word fear. I for some reason, every time you say fear, I think of scary. Okay, I like the word awe and respect. So why does the Alter Rabbi use the word fear in here? Fear is like saying that you're scared of something.
Yeah, well, he used the word yared, right? So we're trying to translate it, and you're correct that the word I picked to translate it is going to affect me in English. So I don't need to use the word fear. I can use the word respect or awe if that works better for me. B, in Kabbalah, there's always distinct levels of emotions. So yes, you're right. What we call pachad, actual alpha fear, I'm scared. That's the lowest level of fear that we want to work with for the sake of elevation. It's a rather immature level, but there's higher forms of fear that are more and more just like awe or respect, where it's not like I'm scared of some kind of punishment. That being said, how do I behave? Say I'm misbehaving today, and my feelings got the better of me. I'm having a fight with my brother, my sister, my wife, whomever. We're going at it now. We're expressing in the worst way. We're using our gifts of speech to yell at each other. It's a terrible morning. And suddenly, ding dong, the doorbell rings, and who's there? UPS with a package. What happens to the fight at that moment? What happens? We all know. Suddenly, zip. Suddenly, I thought I was so angry I couldn't control myself, and I couldn't believe what's happening. And when you say this to me, of course I'm going to call you that name, right? We're so out of control. And suddenly we go to a much higher functioning state. But why? Why, when some stranger rings the doorbell with a UPS package, wouldn't I just keep fighting and just let the fight go on as I sign the thing? I don't have to talk to them. I mean, they're standing there looking at us, but why wouldn't I fight in front of them? Why would I go to a higher functioning state? What's that about? Anyone know? Yeah?
Well, in my world, that would be because I was taught to be polite and to other people, and I suppose that means I have respect for them. And
Right.
this person is not a part of this other deal that's going on, and it would be like a shanda to do this to him.
Yeah, so you said it well, right? Part of being polite in front of other people is that it's something wrong I'm in some way not comfortable with, misbehaving in front of a stranger. The way people that I'm close to, maybe sometimes I fail and I misbehave. There's a
Right.
certain, it's not, I wouldn't call it fear. I'm not afraid of this UPS person, but you know what?
Afraid of being bad, of looking
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
Not
we're
supposed
afraid
to-
of, we're
not
afraid of being
supposed to do
embarrassed.
that.
Yeah. So, you know, there's a great teaching in Judaism. It's true, you don't have to be so afraid of the Ein Sof that you're trembling in fear. But if we could at least be as afraid of the Ein Sof as I am afraid of the random stranger that rings my doorbell, that would be enough. Because why? That fear, I don't love the UPS person. I'm not stopping a fight because I love them. I'm stopping a fight because I have a certain fear, respect, embarrassment, whatever word you want to use. That facet of me that comes out when the doorbell rings,
Regard.
that lets me function at a higher state. That immediately gets me to a higher state. I have much more mastery over myself. I can control my emotions. I can stop on a dime. And I'd like to at least have that level of mastery when I'm at a minyan at Temple Israel and someone calls on my cell and I think, should I get off the minyan and now deal with the world? Or should I have enough respect, or whatever English word you want to use, that I'm going to keep going? I'll wait for later. Yeah?
The word that comes to me now is regard.
Regard is good. Yeah.
Regard.
And
You have
surrender
regard
is
for
part of it.
situation.
I'm surrendering myself to it. So if some other need comes up, it's not going to interfere. It's not going to get in the way. So I hear, as Americans, we don't like fear, but you know, there's words and words, and there's levels and levels, and all of them have some kind of way of getting me to a higher functioning state. Of course, not on their own as well. I can't only have fear. If you just have fear, now you're also a one-winged bird. You want to have love as the main wing. But that level of fear that's there, that steadies the other side, that actually is very useful, we can understand. Does that kind of speak to what you're saying, Rick? You gave me the...
Well, yeah, it does. I hear what you're saying perfectly, but to be honest, on my end, I never look as the Ein Sof as fearsome. I never have fear of him. I have awe and respect. And so the word fear doesn't really come into play for me.
Okay, I think to you know, when I you know, have my daughter driving our car, and I'm teaching her how to drive, and you know, she's a great driver, thank God. She's got a good head on her shoulders. But I think the first time she's going to head off without me when she gets her license, and I won't lie to you, there's a certain level of fear there. That's real fear. That's, you know, I feel my heart skip a beat, and we might not think that's fear of the Ein Sof. But what does Judaism say? It's all the Ein Sof, right? Anything that I'm afraid of being disconnected from, loving my daughter is not different than loving the Ein Sof. And having fear, God forbid, that something might happen to separate me from my daughter, that's not different from fearing the Ein Sof. So if I can't understand having fear for an abstract, infinite thing, yeah, I get that, because I'm a human person with a human life. But every fear that I have in my life, that's the same thing as fearing the Ein Sof. It's all part of one thing. Loving other Jews is the same as loving God, and fear of being disconnected from those who are close to me is the same as fearing God. So perhaps that's a starting point. Okay, first Noreen, then Eleanor, then let's get back inside, because I do want to finish our chapter today.
Sorry.
I'm thinking that maybe, Rick, we're kind of connected to the concept of fear as fear of punishment. And that's what we have to dispel here, because that's not what we're talking about in terms of fear. It's just a different meaning for the word fear.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
maybe
well, fear of punishment is definitely part of the lower definition of yira, more pachad than yira.
Right.
But that's not part of it. That's not part of it. So fear of the consequences of me misbehaving, right? Judaism says I should not yell at people in anger, right? It's like idol worship. It's the worst thing I can do. I should avoid it in any situation. I should never be angry and express it. I should never express anger. Being angry I can't control, but expressing it, being angry I can control too, but I'm not allowed to express anger, period, right? If I express anger at a friend or at my wife too many times, what's the consequence going to be? There's going to be a separation in that relationship. I could lose that relationship. There's nothing wrong with being aware of the consequences of me misbehaving if it allows me to behave at a higher level. So even though we look at it and we say, you know what, that's childish, I don't think of myself as God's going to give me, God's going to make me right. I shall not yell my voice a million times in heaven, and how boring is that? I'm going to be punished. I get that that seems childish, but don't lose that the fear and the sense of trepidation that there will be consequences to me veering off to the counterproductive behaviors that are possible. That is a tool that's going to let me be higher functioning. And once I have that base, let me get the more mature sense of awe, of respect for the glory of the infinite light that is behind all this. But even if we're saying I want more than that, I'm above that, that doesn't mean without it. That means above it with the advantage of having a healthy respect for the consequences of my actions.
Thank you.
Eleanor, did we discuss it or? Yeah.
Well, no, I just have a different approach. I feel that going through the Tanya, that a lot of the words in my world are redefined or given new meaning. And so I have this trade-off. When I hear the word fear, I tell my mind, oh, it's awe, it's respect. And when I hear nullify, it means this. And I just change it.
Very good. That's an excellent approach as well. Just have a different circuitry in my mind. And when I read, if I'm at temple and I'm hearing a bar mitzvah read a reading and I see fear in that, now I replace it with awe, and now it has a higher meaning. I like that. All right, let's go in. So I forget where we are. This was a great conversation. Could someone remind me where on the page I am? I think
Bottom of the page.
Bottom
Cantor.
of 572.
וכשעוסק שלא לשמה ממש, משום איזו פנייה לכבוד עצמו. And Paul, I think we're at you if you'll unmute. Almost there. There you go. Thanks.
However, when one engages in divine service explicitly, not lishma, but for an ulterior motive of self-glorification, as for example, in order to become a scholar and the like.
So until now, we've been talking about when I mess up because I'm just on automatic. I have no mindfulness, I have no kavanah, my emotions are not infusing this body of the mitzvah, right? I'm singing with my family from the Haggadah. That's a mitzvah. We're making physical sound with our voices and a physical Haggadah, or a digital Haggadah perhaps. And I want to infuse that body with a soul, which is my love and my awe, and give it a soul that will elevate it. Until now, we've been talking about that I'm on automatic. I'm not charging that physical body, the mitzvah, with the soul of my emotions. I'm just doing it automatic, and it's hanging around the spiritual worlds and not elevating to godliness. But what if I'm really in it for me, right? I say, wow, we have Rabbi Yelwab is joining us on this call, and it's wonderful to have him here. What if I see how people have respect for Rabbi Yelwab, and they see how brilliant he is and how much of the essence of Judaism he's absorbed, and look at the respect he gets in the world, and I'd like to be like that. I'd like to be a rabbi. Let me learn this Torah so I can have the same respect as Rabbi Loss and Rabbi Yedwab and Rabbi Hornston. Now what's happening? Is that about the Ein Sof? Is that about someone else? Is that an other-centered activity anymore? That's just about me again, right? I might say, yeah, but it's great learning Jewish stuff and being a rabbi. That's a lofty goal. But that's my ego's goal. That's, if you learn with us from the beginning, that's the animal soul's goal. That's my ego drive's goal that's happening. And you can do it even with something as beautiful as a Seder or as learning Torah. I can take it, and I'm still giving a soul to that body of the mitzvah, but that soul is from the egotistical side of reality. If you learn with us, it's from klipa, it's from the shell, the klipa of the world. So I'm not giving it a soul that comes from the side of oneness, of holiness. I'm giving it a soul that's coming from the side of klipa, and now it's not just hanging around in the externality of the worlds. I'm actually taking that spark of divine light that I have in my hand, and I'm shoving it down into the lowest level, the physicality of the universe, to get sort of stuck and mired there. So really, actually a counterproductive activity. Azai ota pnia shemitzad klipa dinoga mitlabeshet betorato. And let's start again with Noreen.
Then this motive, which is derived from klipa noga, clothes itself in his Torah study.
So that's what's happening. It's not a soul of holiness from my other centered emotions that I'm infusing into this physical mitzvah. It's actually my ego self, my nefesh behamit, and I'm taking emotions from that part of myself. I'm infusing the emotions of klipa into this mitzvah. It's got a soul of klipa now, and boom, it's getting stuck down really in exile. It's like in the mud of the universe. You know, people take this so seriously in some communities. There's a story of a mentor on the kabbalistic side in this community, Reb Nissan Nemanov, and he would study Torah all the time. He loved studying Torah. That was a big thing. But whenever he got to the end of one of these big Gemara paras, you know, if you've seen a Talmud on a shelf and it's got, you know, volume after volume. So you've been learning for how many weeks to get through a whole volume? We've been working and working. And then he'd get to the end, and 1 or 2 pages before the end, just quietly stop, put it away, and take the next one out. It turns out he was doing it exactly for this reason. And the story spread like wildfire, but I'm sure he's not the one that spread it. He didn't want to have even the self-satisfaction of, there, I finished it, right? Hooray for me, you know, have l'chaim, make a siyum. Even though that's learning Torah, that's like the holiest thing Judaism says that you can do with your time. He didn't want to get it even involved with enough self-satisfaction that he even finished it, and now I feel good about it, right? Now he just said, no, wait, I'll make sure this is being infused with an other-centered klipa by avoiding even that subtle, well, not so subtle, joy of finishing one of these volumes and then going to the next volume with a sense of completion. So, of course, I'm not suggesting anyone, function at such a perhaps crazy level of commitment to it, but we should know that if really I'm doing something for my own sake, because I think it makes me look good, that's the dynamic. Now I'm not elevating anything. I'm actually taking it and bringing it down. והתורה היא בבחינת גלות בתוך הקליפה. And the
Torah studied for this motive is in a state of exile within the klipa.
Right, but there is a solution. לפי שעל אשר יעשה תשובה שמביאה רפואה לעולם.
But only temporarily until he repents, since repentance brings healing to the world.
Right, so when I go back, and whether it's at Sunday Minyan when we do the Amida, and I say, God, I'm sorry for the ways I failed. I'm sorry for being so self-centered. I'm sorry, perhaps I taught this class and I was thinking about how many views I was going to get rather than trying to connect with the Ein Sof and learn with people. We can all do this. And when I do tshuva, when I say I'm sorry, now I grab that stuff that was down in the klipa and I have a chance to elevate it. So we shouldn't think if I did it wrong, oh, too bad, that was all bad. In fact, it's going to be good in the end anyways. But you have to be aware and go back over your week and say, okay, everything that I did at temple, in what way was it maybe about me? And I'm sorry for that, and now let me reverse that. And now in some ways it bounces back even higher than before. שבשובו אל השם גם תורתו שבת עמו.
For when he returns to God, his Torah returns with him from klipa to holiness.
Right? So just like in a relationship, if I had a fight with someone, there's a separation, and then I missed out on doing some things I'd normally do for the person, or I sent an email that was negative. When I apologize truly, and when we come together, all that stuff it ceases being negative, right? ולכן אמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, לעולם יעסוק אדם וכולו, שמתוך שלא לשמה בא לשמה בוודאי.
Therefore, our rabbis of blessed memory said, one should always engage in Torah and mitzvot, even Shalom Lishma, for out of Shalom Lishma, he will certainly arrive at study and observance Lishma.
This is a very deep point that the Alter Rebbe is making, because if there was a possibility that I wasn't going to eventually do tshuva, and that every self-centered thing I did, I wasn't going to turn around and say, I'm sorry, and bring it back up and make it a positive in the world, then maybe it would be that there were times when I shouldn't learn Torah. Maybe there'd be times I shouldn't come to Kabbalah Shabbat, because if it's just about me and I'm going to take this holy light and bring it down and shove it into the mud, maybe better that I don't engage with it, that I stay out of it. But the Jewish practice is always do it, even if you're doing it for your own ego. Just keep doing it for your ego, because eventually you're going to come around and all that light that you put down in the mud, you're going to bring it back up. You're going to get to the point where I'm mature enough to make everything I've done be productive. And it's kind of like having faith that everything that the Ein Sof wants to happen, it's a good investment and it's going to pay returns. So I should know for myself, whatever's happening, whatever I've failed, it's guaranteed that at some point I'm going to bring myself to my highest point. I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to elevate it. And in the end, God's investment always pay off, because either I did the right thing to begin with, and now God has, like, call it something like a tzaddik. I'm not a tzaddik, obviously, but God has someone that did the right thing at that moment. Or I did the wrong thing, and now God has something like a Baal Tshuva, something like someone that returns to oneness with God. So either way, whatever I did, it works out for the Ein Sof. My only choice is how long I take to finally elevate that stuff and get away from my ego and do it for my family, do it for the community, do it for the oneness of the universe. And now everything that I did for myself becomes elevated. It's a guarantee. That makes sense? Let's see. I know we started late, so if we go a few minutes over, if some people need to drop off, please, no need for any apology. It's all fine, but I'd love to see we can finish our chapter today. Since שבוודאי סופו לעשות תשובה בגלגול זה או בגלגול אחר. Since
it is certain that he will ultimately repent, whether in this incarnation or another.
As here's a long game, right? I know many streams of Judaism have moved away from reincarnation and would say, it's not part of Judaism, and that's valid, obviously. But in Kabbalah and Hasidus, there's also a stream that does see incarnation as part of the way of rectifying a soul. So whichever world of Judaism we're in, it can even be to the point when you see someone who perhaps seems like they didn't do something positive, they may have another chance. And in fact, Judaism says they definitely will have another chance, and everything will be for the positive. Everything will be for the good. Every mistake I may have made, at some point, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to elevate it, and I'll be just pure positivity. And here's a quote to back it up. Ki lo yidach mimenu nidach. Because
no one banished from him by his sins will remain banished, but will ultimately repent.
And here's another fix. So that first fix is, if I really did it for myself, and I really didn't elevate it, and I really stuck it even in the mud, now I got to do tshuva. It's as simple as saying, God, I'm sorry that I did that for me. I meant to do it for you. I meant to do it for the Ein Sof. I meant to do it to elevate the world. And once you do that, boom, it's done. Because we should remember that even though I have a limited amount of forgiveness in me, and if someone treats me badly for the 1,000th time, I may not accept their apology. God does not have limited anything, and God's ability to forgive is completely limitless, completely infinite, and the 1000th time is the same as the first time. So we just ask and know now that work becomes positive. We ask genuinely. And what's the fix if I was just on automatic? What's the fix if I was just doing this by instinct, by habit, and I really didn't elevate it, but neither did I shove it down in the mud? Here's a beautiful fix that the Alter Rebbe gives us that we should use. כשעושה סתם לא לשמה ולא שלא לשמה, אין הדבר תלוי בתשובה. Paul, were you, or do you read?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
okay.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Fine. There we go. Okay. But if one acts neutrally, neither lishma nor shalom nishna, then the matter is not contingent on repentance.
So here's the beautiful thing. If I just was on automatic, it wasn't really for my ego, I just wasn't there. There's something called comping, which we do when we do albums. And Rabbi Yebam knows about this from his gorgeous Chabad Unplugged album, that what you're hearing when you hear the song is actually the best moments from a few takes. So I might sing, or Rabbi Yebam might have sung the prayer 3 or 4 times, and then the mixing recording engineer will take, that phrase sounds great, but this one sounds even better than that one, and they'll composite together one performance out of maybe 4 performances. So God is actually the best mixing agent, and God wants us to look really great. So God is actually going to take, as the Alter Rebbe will show, every one of the times I prayed the whole year, God's going to take the very best moments. When we did the Amida back in January, Smolash really got that, Adonai Siftak Yivtach, got it perfect there. But you know what? The rest was kind of, he was distracted. But you know what? In February, when he was doing the prayer for healing, he really meant it from his heart. So God will take each one of those segments and comp them together into one full prayer, and we'll count that as my prayer for the year. So even if I never actually got through a whole service at Temple with my heart in it, God is going to comp and is going to put it together for me, so to speak, so that I get this one shining, beautiful prayer to elevate everything that year. Let's hear it in the Alter Rebbe's words. Rather, Ela miyad shechozer v'lomed davar shel ze lishmo, harei gam ma shelamad bistam mitchaber mitztaref lelimud ze ufarcha le'ela.
Rather, as soon as he reviews the subject lishma, then even that which he had studied neutrally soars on high, attaching itself to and joining his present study.
And he's talking about prayer here, but it does also apply to, he's talking about learning, but it applies to prayer also. So as soon as I actually come back and I review it for the sake of elevating it, now each time that I did it in the past, I pull that into this time and it is elevated with it. So if you're talking about learning, say today you were distracted and you're learning this with us online or in the future, and you went through it because you've been learning with us, but your heart wasn't in it. The moment you come back and you say, I want to get it a little deeper, and you come and you learn it, you elevate what you're learning that moment, and you also elevate the time you learned before without mindfulness. And that is pulled into your current mindfulness, and you can elevate everything from your past. As long as it wasn't about your ego and it was just on automatic, this technique of pulling your past touch points into the current dynamic is going to elevate each time you did it lowly small out of mindlessness. Why? Me'achar shelo nitlabesh bo adayin shum klipa denoga.
Since no klipa noga had yet clothed itself in his previous study.
Because it wasn't really klipa that got in there. It wasn't true ego. It was just a lack of kavanah. That's all it was. And now the famous quote: "V'lachen lo'olam yasok adam chulu." Therefore, who are we at? Suella, why don't you go ahead with for us? Therefore.
Oh, okay. Therefore, a man should always occupy himself with Torah, even Shlomo Lishma, for out of Shlomo Lishma, he will come to Lishma. The Torah that he studied will itself be elevated to the level of Lishma. In this case, the Lishma comes automatically when one reviews his studies. It is not contingent on repentance, as it is in the case of Torah study for personal motives.
And finally, v'chein ha'inyan b'tefillah shelo v'kavanah k'mo shekatuv b'zohar. It also applies.
The same is true of prayer without kavanah, as discussed in the Zohar.
So it applies to learning. It also applies to prayer, that there's many, many levels of how I can elevate learning and prayer. Reminding myself, it's once I have that physical body, the mitzvah, I want to infuse it with a soul of love and awe, and that will elevate it. And guess what? If I'm human and I was distracted today, go back, and when you touch that same point again, I will elevate the previous moment that had mindfulness in it. And if, you know what, if it was about me, and guess what, I'm human, and sometimes it probably is, now I can actually turn to God and say, sorry, I made this beautiful moment at Temple Israel about me. I want it to be about the community and about God, and that will also elevate my work. So all my work gets saved on the big infinite hard drive, so to speak, up above us. Yes, Eleanor. You're muted. I can't hear you.
There we go. I was beginning to relax in my prayers and doing what I was doing, and now I seem a little paranoid. Oh my God, is it right? Is it good? What am I doing? This whole chapter has done that to me.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, sometimes we can feel, now I know the Hebrew, I have themes, I have my focus that I want, that I like, and now it's familiar, it's part of me, and that's a good thing. Those are all good things. But it can lead to such familiarity that now I coast through it. And if that's the case, I shouldn't freak out, right? I'm human, this happens, but this is the fix. Right? I want to remember that I'm doing it for the sake of the prayer and of the Torah. I'm elevating them, and that requires mindfulness and emotion and kavanah, as we said. And if I miss out sometime, if I skip over it, I can go back and I can actually re-elevate it. Be conscious that the next time I touch it. But yeah.
Well, what I'm saying though is that, so I start and say one or two words and I go, oh, is that going up or is that going down? And then I say 3 or 4 words. And, is it right? Oh no, this is not right this time. And then, oh my God, if I'm thinking, then it's not right at all.
Yeah. So in a balanced way, right? So we don't want to go overboard on this either, but that's a good tool for keeping mindfulness in your prayers, Eleanor, is being aware and assessing as I'm going through. Is this going up or is this about me? I think that's an ingredient we always want. Yeah, and it'll keep us, as you said, from getting on too comfortable. You know what? If we can, before we leave, I want to do just 2 minutes of meditation to finish off. Can we hold this? Was it Sharon? What's the question?
It's fine.
You're good. Okay.
No problem.
Let's finish with let's build a little bit of emotions for our Pesach Seder. And if you're with us in the future, just join us now. It doesn't matter when you're watching. Let's have our spine nice and long, please, and our breathing nice and slow. We're a little behind time for our class here, so I'll do this quickly, but you can stretch it out on your own if you like. Let your breath open up into 4 even stages. We're going to breathe in for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep the breath in for the same. 2, 1. Breathing out. 3, 2, 1. And let the breath stay out. 3, 2, 1. Repeat that again. In through your nose if you can. 3, 4. Keep it in. 2, 3, 4. Letting the breath come out. 2, 3. Stay there. Keep doing this on your own rhythm, counting for yourself, breathing in. If your belly can get in on the game, swelling out as the breath fills you and pulling back up as the breath comes out, that's even better. If you're aware of our technique of opening a wisdom gateway, please do that now. This space in between the end of the in-breath and the beginning of the out-breath, that's our wisdom gateway. Let that open in your mind and your heart. Let's just see the two wings of love and awe that I have at my disposal to elevate everything I'll do this Shabbat, everything I'll do this Pesach. Bring all the stuff I do with my family, here at temple, online, bring it all up to unite with the Ein Sof. Just let that image fill your mind, that holy concept, these wings of love and awe that will elevate all we do. As you continue breathing, let that image fill your mind more and more clearly, more and more fully, till your mind is full to the brim with that concept. If those wings aren't moving, let them move in your mind. If they're perhaps taking up a small screen, triple the screen. And if you're not the one flying, perhaps leap up into the air and become the one flying. If you are on your own, feel free to pause your computer and spend 5-10 minutes letting this image fill your mind, infuse your emotional body with energy. If you're here, let's open our eyes, wiggle our toes. My apologies for going overtime, but I'm wishing everybody an amazing Shabbat, an amazing Pesach. There's so much going on at Temple. I hope you'll join us for everything we're doing. And if you have your own seders, enjoy all that beautiful time with your family, and when the world is in this elevated state, doing all the stuff we love doing. So, Yesher Koach, everybody. I'm going to sign off of Facebook, and you can hang out. Sharon, if you want to, let's touch on your question now. I'm going to sign off Facebook.